The Ultimate Interplanetary Travel Guide reads like any travel book. It tells you what to bring and what to wear. It describes hiking across lunar craters, soaring through the winds of Venus, and rafting down the rapids of Titan. Author Jim Bell wrote it. He's with Arizona State University's School of Earth and Space Exploration. Welcome, Jim. So let's put this into perspective. When could our relatives potentially go on such a planetary trip?
Some point in the future, could be 50 years, 100 years, 200 years in my book, could be 500 years, I don't know. Some point in the future, it will be just as routine to get into a space liner and go somewhere else in the solar system as it is to get in an airliner and go somewhere else on the Earth today. I think that future is coming, and it's not a decade away, but I don't think it's 1,000 years away either.
All right, so let's think about this. How should they pack?
Well, there's all kinds of hostile environments out there. Of course, most places that people go will have to wear a spacesuit, so you need some proper protection. Probably have to bring some oxygen, although I think tour companies will be providing those kinds of things. You want to be getting ready for maybe higher gravity or maybe lower gravity. You might be in an environment on the ship you're traveling on that could be shirt sleeves and yoga pants. But then when you go to transition into, walking around on an asteroid or going out to an icy moon in the outer solar system, you're really going to need to bundle up and make sure you have heaters and spacesuit and oxygen.
And how long would it take to get there, do you think?
Yeah, right now, it's pretty slow. It takes, but modern rocketry techniques and propulsion will take about 3 days to get to the moon, 6 to 9 months to get to Mars, a year or two to get out to Jupiter and Saturn. And that's just with modern chemical propulsion methods. Just like every other area of science and technology, the technology is going to improve over the coming decades and centuries. I think it's very reasonable to imagine a future without having to have warp drives and transporters, where trips to the moon could be down to maybe some number of hours, half a day or some number of hours. And trips out to Mars or into Venus could be measured in weeks, not in months. Now, if you want to go way out into the outer solar system, hey, I want to go skiing on Pluto, it's still, the solar system is big. It's still, I think those trips are still going to be measured in months or years.
That's right. And as there more and more trips like this, and I would imagine the cost would come down, but what's a ballpark, do you think?
If you want to get to the moon fast, it's like a first-class ticket. You're probably going to end up paying more to get there quicker. If you want to take a coach and take you 3 days to get there, okay, maybe that's a much more affordable way to do it. So there'll be those kind of choices too.
So let's get into the nitty-gritty. What are your must-sees while you're there?
I do want to go to the moon for the weekend. I'd love to just go, hop around, have a great meal, check out some sights, come back home. I'd enjoy visiting some of these places on Mars, like the deepest canyons in the solar system, the tallest mountains in the solar system. If you're talking about going way out there, I'd love to, have just a lovely romantic dinner inside the rings of Saturn. There's a small moon of the planet Uranus called Miranda. It's really small, but there's an enormous 10-mile-high, sheer 90-degree cliff of ice. And you can jump off that cliff, and the gravity is low enough that you kind of will float 8 to 10 minutes down this sheer cliff. It's like the ultimate cliff diving experience.
You make this sound very enticing. Thank you, Jim. Jim Bell, author of the book, The Ultimate Interplanetary Travel Guide. Thank you for helping us travel in the solar system vicariously.
Pack well and travel safe.
Ann Thompson, 91.7 WVXU. It's called the Microscale Magnetic Tumbling Robot and is only 400 to 800 microns. That's smaller than the head of a pin. Director of Purdue University's Multi-Scale Robotics and Automation Lab, Dave Capillari, is here to explain. So what is your invention and how does it work?
So we have designed what we like to call an all-terrain micro-robot. So the robot is very small, as you mentioned, and we want to be able to control it wirelessly over different terrains. And so the way we do that is we use external magnetic fields to control the robot. The robot's just too small where you can stick a battery on it and give it external power. So we use magnetic fields to control the robot that has magnetic properties. And so what we do is when we when we make the robot, we align the magnetic particles inside the robot in such a way that it'll respond to a rotating magnetic field. So as the field rotates, the robot will tumble end over end, and it's able to traverse this rough terrain.
Yeah, and so how quickly does it move?
It responds to the same rotational field of the magnetic field. So in this case, we have it around 10 hertz, so about 10 cycles per second.
Some people might wonder, what's the purpose of this? We have all kinds of robots. Of course, this is very tiny. What purpose might it serve?
So we think that this has some neat applications in the medical field. We would like to be able to put this robot inside a body where you have sticky surfaces like tissue. They're very complex geometries. And this robot could tumble over these rough surfaces and get to a goal location, which may happen to be a tumor, for example, and then we could have targeted drug delivery be released from this micro-robot inside the body. And so we have a middle section of the robot where we have dedicated for a payload, a drug payload, where it can be loaded on there, and so it could do this targeted drug delivery. Right now, when people take drugs or medicines, they kind of go systemically to everywhere in the body. So in this case, if you can just load the robot with the drugs and get to its target location, you could actually give it a higher dose of medicine to the target location, and it will be safer since that drug will not be going everywhere else in the body.
So where do we stand in your research? You've developed this. Do you have more testing to do? And then when would you get with the drug companies?
So right now we're understanding the fundamentals of how do we locomote and move the robot around. How do we control it autonomously? Can we get it to go on different paths predictably? And now our next phase would be to integrate the drugs to the robot to do this kind of testing. And so we're still a little ways out from where we can commercialize it, but hopefully in the next couple of years we'll be able to.
How will we get the robot inside of us for medical purposes?
You can simply use a syringe. These robots are very small. So again, 400 microns by 800 microns. So human hair is about 100 micron diameter. So it's about a couple of human hairs wide. So it can just be injected using a syringe, or you could even do it laparoscopically if you wanted to put it somewhere in the stomach, and then it could kind of go to where it needs to be. There's very small amounts of magnetic material in these robots, so we also need to do some cytotoxicity studies to make sure that it wouldn't be too damaging to the patient. We don't think it is, but we need to do those studies. So either we could even design it to dissolve into the patient, or we can remove it just by bringing it back out the way we took it in.
Thank you, Dave. Interesting research. Dave Capillari is with Purdue University's Multi-Scale Robotics and Automation Lab. Ann Thompson, 91.7 WVXU.